we're ready to start here, and I'd be grateful, again, if you haven't already done so, if everybody could put in the chat what your name is and your organizational affiliations or affiliation, and including your community. That'd be wonderful, so we know who's in the house. And we have a packed agenda for the next 58 minutes. And what I'd love to do is turn this over to Frances Manone. Frances is our project manager, doing an outstanding job keeping everything moving forward. And I'm just really grateful for her hard work and leadership. She's actually in Louisville today, looking out on the Ohio from her hotel room. Right, Frances?
Yeah, I'm at the office.
Let me interrupt for a second. This is David Wicks. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that we're recording this, and so please, be respectful of that. Also, please use the chat. As you type through, listen through the presentations. We have a lot of people online. We'll have some time for questions, but use the chat. Write down what you think as you're here, and that's what you're here for, is to help us think through this whole process. So sorry for interrupting, Frances, you're on.
But also, I just want to, before we start, reintroduce Andrea Ireland, who is with the National Park Service, the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. Wave, Andrea. Yeah. And Andrea has been working with us, along with her colleague, Russell Clark, for the last 2.5 years. It seems like a decade. But with their technical assistance, we've been able to help grow this operation. I can't thank Andrea and Russ enough. And we look forward to working with you. So let's continue to move on there. Again, put your name and organization in the chat, and strap your seatbelt on, because we're ripping here. So Frances, take it away.
All right, we have been very, very busy with the executive committee, who you all ratified as being the leaders of this crowd from the last time we got together. And we're going to run through an agenda that looks like what we have on screen, talk about our coalition membership drive, which is focusing first on the municipal or the community public sector side of all this. And if you are a person who is on right now who is not one of those people, that's okay. You can still be with us. But we're focusing first on the municipal civic side of it. And so we can give you an update on that, an update on our planning and development project as well. We have really excited about all the progress we've made with the planning for the May 12th. We're closing in on 2 weeks before we have first of its kind event that Brewster's going to get into, fundraising efforts from our members and also from us. And then David's going to address the Ohio River Challenge 2022 paddle plans and updates on where we are with all that. So moving on to the next slide here. So here's our growing list. This is not in any way comprehensive list of member communities and an affiliated representative from those communities. So this is much more truncated than what is in reality. What we're trying to do is align one person with a community, and there might be several of you here from one community, but we're trying to designate someone who we can use as a designee for that particular community. So this is growing. If you have any questions, Brewster, is that you trying to weigh in? If you have any questions about that, let me know. We need to add more, obviously, to this list. So I need to assign people. We need to assign people to work as a designee. Cincinnati is one of our members, but we are trying to find someone in the mayor's office that would be adequate for representing. And Jeff O'Brien may shift there in Louisville, but that's what we're working on here. Next up is update on where we've been. So last time we were together, we were talking about some of the other organizational documents that people have weighed in on. And if you were one of the several people who weighed in on a survey that Dr. Wicks had produced regarding how people thought about our membership fees and our strategic planning and all that then informed the work that we did to continue to adopt the different organizational documents we need, the organizational charter, confirming our strategic plan, so that when we ratify all this together, we're working off of stuff that we have been confirmed with you all that you like. We are implementing the fundraising plan, and there's several prongs to that, but the fundraising plan or the funding plan for the organization, one, is rooted in some community support, and then also in philanthropic support, and we've gotten a nice overture from the Christy Brown Foundation. I don't know if O'Shea's on or not, to help support the work of the Ohio River Way organization. And then we are also, as an Ohio, and I'll get to this in future slides, but we are also working together on a number of different funding opportunities for the collective region. The digital guide, our vendors, our service providers with Human Nature and Kohler Design have been hard at work at finalizing this current update for the digital guide 2.0 that David Rutter was integral in, and digital guide 2, the first version, but the digital guide 2.0, as we've been talking about for the last several months, we've juiced it up and amped it up quite a bit so that it provides a whole bunch more, and we're in the process of finalizing that. If you still have changes, let us know, but we're at a point where we've got to take the data points and move on. And again, if we, in the future, we're implementing a maintenance policy on the digital plan, so that digital guide, so that we don't wind up, it doesn't wind up sitting there without people updating it. Dr. Wicks is going to talk a second when he goes over at the end of the agenda here, when we switch over to the website to talk about the Ohio River Challenge, that because of our changing in name and branding, we've been updating the website quite a bit, so you'll see that. Brewster can touch on, and when we get into the Ohio River Challenge, what's going on with our first wave of signage that's coming to us, that is designed and will be distributed during the events in June. This is mundane, but I have to mention it. We are now using MailChimp as a new communication format, so please make sure that you're getting our emails. I know we have a slightly limited crowd today because of some conflicts in scheduling, but it makes me worried when we shift email formats or ways of communicating that we're going to lose people. So there have been some reports that the MailChimp is headed to spam, and we don't want our messaging to head to spam. So make sure you allow messages from us using the MailChimp format. Next up for the planning is additional routing for the land-based component of the trail, and furthering to link the digital guide into the digital and physical experience while you're either on the website or you see it in person. There's a QR code that's listed here that we're going to use the physical signage to drive people into all the information that they can find about all of us online. And that is in progress and building and growing every day. Next up is Brewster. Any questions before I shift on where we stand with the planning? Those are some highlights. There's a lot more going on. If not, I am going to turn it over to, you can either list it in the chat, or I'm going to turn it over to Brewster to talk about one of our most exciting projects we've got going on right now that is in part driving our membership approach for communities. But any questions? All right, Brew.
Okay, Francis, thank you very much. So I first want to thank so many of you on this call for all your help in recruiting your local mayor or judge executive or county commission members, as well as state house and state senate members. We have almost 50 elected officials currently listed as co-hosts for the May 12th, what we call Mayors and Elected Officials Summit on the Ohio River Way from 1 to 2 that day. And it's hard, you can't read a list, of course, here, but we just got word yesterday that Representative Wenstrup would like to be listed there, and a few other commissioners from Ohio counties. But yeah, thank you. So let's just take a quick moment and let you all read through this just to get a feel for the breadth of engagement we have. These are folks who have agreed to have their name added to the invitation as co-hosts, along with, of course, our lead co-host, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher, and Cincinnati Mayor Aftab Purival, both of whom are really excited about being the co-host of this event, weighing in with comments at the beginning, and helping to guide the discussion as well. So take a look at this and let it sink in for a moment.
Sorry, I went, touched the screen and moved it away.
So we have almost every mayor from Portsmouth down to West Point And these are listed in order of river mile, so to speak. So not alphabetical or not by category of elected office. But we have, as you can see, county commissioners, judge executives, and the state reps, state senators, and it's really impressive, I think. So it's all due to you all following up and making sure that people had a chance to sign on. So everybody who is a mayor, a judge executive, a county commissioner, the head of their county commission, and all state reps, state senators, and the members of Congress all got invited. So hopefully nobody will say, hey, how come I'm not on there? Well, they got invited, at least by email. And I see Rick Jansen just popped in here. That's wonderful, from Ironton. Well, Rick, sure, if you can get the mayor, are you the mayor of Ironton? I'm sorry, Rick, I apologize. But we'd love to have Ironton represented. No, you're not, Rick. Okay, but thank you. If you can make sure you email us, if you contact the mayor and see if you'd like to join on, we'd love to have the mayor of Ironton as well, but we need it like next hour or 2 hours, right, Francis?
Yeah, so one of the
yeah.
reasons why that is important, the event is on May 12th, but we're creating a paper copy or a printed version of this, and it has to get to the printer, and that's why there's a cutoff for getting on the paper copy. We will take anyone's name and addition up until the very last minute, but you're going to miss the opportunity to affiliate yourself with your colleagues in a more robust way if you haven't responded now. But this is an enormous group. Yeah, huge. Good job, Brewster.
Yeah, and again, David Rutter, just so you know, we only are listing the actual office holders. But I know that Mark Polininski, who's the head of OKI, would like to join us. And here's the bottom line. This event on the 12th of May is designed to bring all of the elected officials we possibly can together, an historic meeting, which apparently nobody can remember when something like this has occurred. Well, that is all the elected officials just about for 274-mile stretch of the Ohio River to get themselves updated about this initiative, to excite each other about it. And then we're trying to make sure we work into the agenda opportunities for communities to share briefly, 1 minute, 2 minute max, what they are doing to develop their trails, to develop their access to waterways, boat ramps, fuel, et cetera, campgrounds, and what they're doing to promote outdoor recreation in their communities, what they maybe gotten funding for or are trying to get funding for. But there's so many exciting things going on. We want to have an opportunity for them to share briefly what they're doing. But ultimately, we would like, of course, all these communities to buy into joining this organization with a very modest rate structure so that we can generate enough money, not a lot, but in order to help pay for our ongoing operating expenses. We'll raise money separately for specific projects to the extent we are able to do that. But secondly, this is not just for elected officials, which is why all of you hopefully can join us, because we basically want to build an audience that is like we're up in the in the second tier in the balcony, listening in on the elected officials communicating with each other. So we would like to, we frankly don't want to have people who aren't elected officials speaking, other than one or two, but we'd like to make sure you all join in and see the dynamic that's going on. That allows you to then follow up with your elected officials to thank them for participating, to help engage your communities in becoming official members of the organization. So let me ask if there are any particular questions that people have about this event.
Sure, I'd like to chime in right here.
Yes, David.
If a mayor or a county judge wishes to share their information and their highlights, for an example, we have Scott Wood with New Albany here, and Mayor Kahan has just, New Albany's invested $2.5 million to build 2 new boat ramps and extend the greenway there in the Ohio River Greenway. It's just so exciting. And so, one of the intents is to share the enthusiasm that's going on up and down. And so if your mayor or wishes to be highlighted, we have several that we're going to invite, but make sure you get in touch with Brewster or Francis so we can have a straightforward agenda.
That's great. So you're welcome to put in the chat if you believe that your mayor or judge executive or county commissioner would like to share something great. And we will follow up with you, or you just email me, brewohio@gmail. I'll put that in the chat. And so we would need to get a slide or two in advance so we can move quickly. We're talking 1 minute, quick reports. That'd be great. You know, I know Ripley would have something to share big time. So, and others, and maybe we can, well, that's the deal. Okay. So again, are there any questions about this event? We will send out an additional invitation. We'll send all of you this invitation with the link to it, and we'd like you to then register so we know you plan to join us. And again, if there are slides that you would like to have your mayor or judge executive, whatever, share, just send those to me and we'll work those in and be in touch with that person beforehand so we can go through this really quickly, a little show and tell to goose people up. Okay, so anyway, thank you once again for all your hard work to pull this together, but it's astounding, and there's a lot of people to thank. You know, Mike Perlberg, thank you so much. You did so well, and of course, South Bank Partners did an amazing job recruiting people in Northern Kentucky communities, and just up and down the river, we had just wonderful engagement of you all helping to recruit folks. So that's it. Move on. Thank you.
All right. So in doing that, it was with the initial conversations with the chief co-hosts, how about that? Mr. Mayor Pureval and Fisher's staff, that it was identified, as Brewster had said, that they don't really get together and talk about the Ohio River the way you would hope they would. And so that is, I mean, this is just another way in which the Ohio River Way organization helps drive value for the member organizations, its individual participants, as well as the community organizations, the communities that are involved in it. So I'm going to run through some funding slides, and I know Brewster just touched on some New Albany efforts that were underway, but as part of the funding plan that we had been working on and are continue to work on implementing, we did a bunch of research on how much resources have been spent in the region to date. And so the way in which most of this outdoor recreation stuff gets paid for in the United States is through the RTP program and the Land Water Conservation Program. So if you have outdoor recreation enhancements that you would like to do in your community, that's how communities wind up paying for things, as they apply through the their states to get resources for their project, for their outdoor recreation. So in the background is Ohio's back in the back, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. I will share the rest of this data if you would like to see it more, but this is total spending for the entire state to date since the start of the program. So say, for example, RTP funds for Ohio is $32 million in 40 years. And then what we did was, using in part some of the digital guide work where it shows us how deep we go away from the river with regards to the county depth, did an analysis of how much of that was actually spent in the Ohio Valley. And so then the numbers start getting more and more reduced with regards to how much has been spent in, and these are just these two resources. So a little unfair to say this is the only spend, but just highlighting the amount of spend that's been going on with these two programs. So Ohio River Towns, one number here that's listed that I want to draw to people's attention. Ohio River Towns for the RTP program in the 40 years in which it was created, 170 million, or 1.7 million. So in 40 years, it's really not a whole lot of money. And so the reason why we captured this data and we wanted to grab this information is to start benchmarking how we could highlight the amount of additional resources we could bring into the communities that are not currently being spent. I think the work that David and Brewster have been doing in the region over the last 2 or 3 years has already started getting people to pay more attention to their waterfronts and their outdoor recreation along the river and the corridor. And so the trend is already starting to flip back towards an interest and investment in their communities, but wanted to share these numbers with you. We currently, for fundraising, I've bucketed this into two different things: the Ohio River Way Coalition fundraising for the region, and then Ohio River Way member communities fundraising using resources that are available to them, fundraising for themselves and the projects that they have in the region. So we got and thank you very much for the lots of support that we got for this effort, but the executive committee identified that we would like to pursue 2 congressionally directed spending requests through Senator Sherrod Brown's office, and our request there is 1.1 million, and through Representative Yarmouth's office, and our request there, because he's a rep and he's only able to really affect things in a certain geography, is less than that, but 550,000. And there were quite a number of you, and I didn't highlight them all, but more than 20 letters of support that came out from the region to help support those overtures for what's better known as earmarks. We will know by the 12th, probably by the end of this, any day now, any second now, as to whether or not we get selected. The way this process works is we have to get selected and put on shared. The decisions have not yet been made, or at least I'm not knowledgeable about whether or not the decisions have been made yet with Brown's office and Yarmouth's office about which ones they're promoting in DC on their lists. They have a finite amount of programs and projects that they can use, and we are hopeful that we are going to make it on their lists. We may, who knows when we would be able to see those resources, should we imagine success and we get included in the budget, but hopefully by year end, calendar year 2022 is when we would certainly know about it. And then the resources would become available to us in 2023. Brewster, do you want to talk about what we used at all? Or David, do you want to talk about what we've applied for with regards to those 2 applications?
Sure, I would jump right in here, and the Yarmouth piece is to start the process of kiosks and signages. The Metro Louisville has committed to install and maintain kiosks at every boat ramp and every riverside park. And that also includes some non-Metro Louisville parks like Waterfront Park. And so they've all agreed to install them. So the process for the funds will be to design signage systems that are based in safety, geographic understanding, recreational potential, other trailheads that you could visit from that area. So an orientation. One of the things that always amazes me is that our ramps do not have that. You go to Florida, you go to many other places, and that safety piece is there. So working with the Coast Guard and all of our partners, it's a process. We hope that this system will be replicable up and down the entire Ohio River Trail. So it turns into a formal branding piece. These facilities, we believe, will be larger than the signage that we're going to put up this summer, which is just sort of a marker in part, but this is really informational signage. The second part of it is that it really pulls together all the organizations that face the Ohio River and come out with one common vision and one common, at least the essence of it, because it has to be agreeable to everybody and has to meet the design standards of 3 different park districts and on and on and on. And so it's a fascinating process. We have great support in Louisville, and so we hope Yarmouth does go forward. If anybody knows Congressman Yarmouth, you are more than welcome to reach out and say, please fund this. One side piece before I turn it over to Brewster, that third one down there, the flap, it's a fascinating project called the Federal Lands Access Program. And the reason why I want to emphasize this is I think it's another benefit of Ohio River Way. To get folks like Francis and Mark Long to really think through those federal fundings, and the flap money is not going to come to the Ohio River Way. It's really directed towards Manchester and Manchester Islands. And so, we're in this for both, trying to figure out a sustainable system for the Ohio River Way, but at the same time, almost acting as a technical facilitator / fundraiser for all the participating river towns. And so flap project's just wonderful. So, Brewster, I'll let you talk about Senator Brown.
Well, just briefly, Senator Brown, we met with his staff several different times and applied to, or through him, for an earmark request that totaled about $1.1 million that would work in collaboration with the leadership in Claremont, Brown, Adams, and Scioto counties, that is from Portsmouth down to New Richmond, and also affects some of Hamilton County, with the goal being to help with the marketing, develop a very aggressive marketing program for their special events and unique assets in those communities, whether it be underground historical assets, cultural assets, et cetera, in addition to the recreational assets. Number two, work with them on providing technical assistance, just like David mentioned, like looking for funding opportunities in concert with them that they can take advantage of. So it wouldn't go to us, it would go directly to their own communities for developing their riverfront access, their trail systems, et cetera. And number third, a good chunk of change, actually significant percentage, would go into paying for the kind of signage and kiosks that David mentioned for the Louisville area along the riverfront from Cincinnati to Portsmouth. That would be interpretive about the ecological dynamics of the Ohio River and the region, showing information about water safety. So the Coast Guard is very interested in working with us on this. Also, obviously, about the different sections of the Ohio River that are represented by that stretch. So a very detailed map on the signage of that stretch of the Ohio, maybe for 5-10 miles. So people can, if they're paddling or they're power boating, can see where the next marina and fuel dock is, campground, restaurant facilities, and how it connects to the trail system and along the river. So the vision is, for example, in Ripley, as Wayne Gates, the city manager, mentioned the other day, maybe there could be 4 different kiosks at different locations in Ripley, most of which would overlook the river, but that would help people understand what the history of the community is, cultural assets, the recreational assets, and of course what's going on with the river, including the ecology of it. So Wayne thought that made a lot of sense, and we are grateful for the support we received from the city of Portsmouth, from Adams County. Thank you very, very much. And of course from our friends in Brown County, and also of course in Claremont County. So we got support from New Richmond, Ripley, Portsmouth, and as I say, Adams County. But then we also got a very wonderful letter from the Ohio River Valley Development Commission. Thank you, Gina. That was a wonderful letter, and got support as well from our friends with the Claremont County Visitors and Convention Bureau, who are very pumped about this project. So we are optimistic. The staff really like the project because in one earmark grant, they can affect 4 to 5 counties and have a nice impact regionally. So we'll see. We'll know in a few weeks if it made the first cut, and then it's always a challenge.
We will be.
There you go.
We will be reaching out to all of you to think about this content of it, because that's the challenge. There's so many fascinating aspects of it, like the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. How do we blend that into the story of the river and have sort of, we aren't going to take over any stories, but we want to collaborate and coordinate and share them. So we have one story, and how, from indigenous folks to Lewis and Clark to current history. So it just goes on and on and on. It's just exciting.
So if you imagine a corridor-wide sign design family that the Kolar team has been working on with Human Nature, that is essentially what we're implementing against. And we hope to be doing that all up and down the corridor. The FLAP funding, I just want to touch on that for a second. That application is due on Monday. There's a small working group that's struggling together to work on it. And I appreciate everybody's support on that. It's actually an overture from Adams County specifically, but FLAP is Federal Lands Access Program. It was funded through the IIJA infrastructure bill. It's always been there, but it has now gotten an extra boost from the IIJA, wherein there is no local match right now. And so usually it's 25-75. This is 100% match. And believe it or not, there are people who don't know that there are islands of the Ohio River. And so the FLAP application is to boost access and awareness for the Manchester Islands 1 and 2 that's owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So that's an example of us helping Adams, Manchester, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service go after this particular pot of funds with us doing the work and them, well, we all indirectly benefit, but there are direct benefits that of our members that are there too.
And one of the dreams is that with this, Michael Miller's in the audience. And so how can we start to think about this for all of the other islands in the Ohio River? And so it's our first entree with U.S. fishing, first formal entree. Actually, it's the second one, believe it or not. Working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we've now arranged for primitive camping on all of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife islands in the Ohio River. You have to apply, you have to, say what you're doing and on and on and on. First time in the Ohio River that we now have 22 primitive campsites, mostly upstream, but it's just many kudos to Michael Miller. If you don't know him, good guy. Sorry for interrupting, Francis.
We're going to name the next island refugee after Dr. Miller. But he's my source he knows more about the islands than anybody else. So, which is a shame because as I've been talking about this with people who are not river people, oh, there's islands on the Ohio River? What? Had no idea. Next, let's keep going. And people are talking about this in the chat. Yeah, Brew?
Well, I was just going to say it might be helpful if maybe Gina Collinsworth or somebody else from her organization could just briefly share what the governor of Ohio announced yesterday. That could also down the pike be very beneficial to this work, in the Ohio counties at least.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for the moment to just introduce Jessica Keaton, Economic Development Coordinator. We all heard from Governor DeWine yesterday. We're pretty excited about what might be coming.
Yeah, so Governor DeWine unveiled a proposal to assist with development in Appalachian, Ohio. Of course, that's the Builds program. What his proposal is $500 million for the 32 counties of Appalachian, Ohio, which would include our river counties from Claremont to Gallia County. And there are a couple really important investment priorities that I think that will be really relevant to the Ohio River Way. The two biggest ones, I believe, are downtown revitalization. There's going to be a sizable amount of money for that. And also trails and tourism development. He mentioned trails specifically because of the existing assets we have and the need to really market and improve those assets that we have in our community. So we're really excited about that. As of now, this is just a proposal. It's not been approved by the Ohio legislature. If it is, OVRDC anticipates that, maybe we'll be involved in this in some way, but still, we don't know. We're waiting to hear something. But as things develop and we get news, we'd certainly be happy to share those developments.
Yeah. And don't forget to contact your representatives and let them know that you support it. That's going to be crucial to getting it passed.
Right.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys updating us on that. And then I know that South Bank Partners has played a key role in bringing additional dollars into Newport, most recently for development of the riverfront, the Festival Park through the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and also Warsaw, Kentucky benefit from that as well. Is there anybody who would like to share briefly about that? From South Bank, perhaps?
I do have listed, and this is in part related to the Appalachian overture from Governor DeWine. Indiana has a next level trail program that is trails on steroids. And we hope there's the Ohio Trail Partnership and the Ohio Trail Coalition that has been advocating for a program similar to Indiana at the state level in Ohio. And at any rate, whether or not DeWine heard us talking about the Indiana version of their trail funding or not, we did see for communities that would be affected that are along the Ohio Valley, 2.3 million come for Jeffersonville. Aurora got close to $1 million, and Madison 2.1 to help connect to Hanover. So those things just got announced through the Indiana version of the next level trails. One thing I want to say about advocacy and planning is the Bengals bubble. everybody, one thing we might all be able to agree on that's not divisive, maybe, is everybody likes the Bengals. So the Bengals are putting up a new practice bubble. And because of the fact that there has been advocacy work going on for several years now, about 7 years with Tri-State Trails around the crown planning for where the trails want to go in the future along the waterfront, that bubble idea, the concept of where the Bengals wanted to put it was going to be on top of where the future trail would be. And so because of the fact that there's already a plan in place and there's been advocacy work being done and other parts of the trail are being built in Cincinnati, the Tri-State Trail Organization was able to say, hey, Bengals, can you slide your bubble over a little bit so that when we put our trail in, you know, it won't be blocking us. And so the Bengals response was definitely, we do not want to get in the way of building out the trail network. So that's not necessarily dollars being spent on trails by the Bengals necessarily, but that is a great example of how a good plan and some advocacy can help create the avenues that you need in order or prevent things from obstructing trail use. Anything else before I move to the next slide?
Just speaking of trails, you know, Debbie from South Bank Partners just put in the chat the fact that Governor Bashir delivered a $175,000 check this past week, or just recently. The Purple People Bridge really is, of course, the main trail connection between Northern Kentucky and Ohio, and that's huge. That is now reopened under South Bank's incredible hard work to raise the money locally to be matched with the state fund. So hats off. It's another example of dollars coming in to help connect the communities along the river. Wonderful.
So then in future funding, for future funding opportunities, in the work that we're doing with regards to the planning of the kiosk and the signage and the routing and all of that, we have been fleshing out further and further the operating budget of the Ohio River Way, as well as any potential capital projects that we might not necessarily do. We don't plan on building anything in the future, but we want to help our partners build things. So we have our region-wide wish list of things that we like to see happen for the Ohio Valley. And again, thinking of this as a public-private partnership, we ourselves are not going to be potentially pursuing infrastructure improvements, but we want to see our partners and our members doing it. So please share in the future any dreams your communities have, and some of what we've seen through the Rivertown Review programs and projects. But if you have something that you're seeking funding for that's along the Ohio River and it mission aligns with the Ohio River Way, we can add it to our wish list of projects that just helps build out the region.
One way to collect that data, Francis, is if people register for the May 12th summit, one of the questions in it is, what projects are you planning in your community? Now, these aren't commitments. What we're trying to do is to collect whole systematic improvement projects up and down our entire corridor. And the more data we have, the more we can help.
Yep. So then, and in terms of future funding, the IIJA infrastructure spending that is in the process of, happy to send you data on how you can access that with regards to going beyond the RTP spending in communities and the land water conservation spending and using road improvements and other things that could be beneficial for your trail developments. If anyone needs any technical support specifically around that, let me know. I did note here that the Ohio land water, Kentucky, what we just enumerated with Purple People Bridge and Indiana is those two states spend for their RTP and the land water conservation. It's their annual spend. Ohio's application is due November 15th. So plenty of time, but nothing like a good deadline to get people moving. Would love to see a bunch of communities going in after their RTP and land water conservation resources for the state of Ohio. We're running low on time, so I'm going to move through the brownfield and demo and TMUD, but if anybody has any interest in other sources of funds for southern portions of Ohio, we can get into that.
You know,
Yes,
I just want to interrupt one more time. If folks don't realize, Francis is an employee also of this place called let's see, something Todd, I'll get it, Frost, Todd, and Brown. And this is what she does. So she's here in Louisville working on a huge restoration of a historic building called the Starks Building. You know, and she's done the same in Dayton. And it's just amazing to get Frost, Todd, and Brown helping us think through the development of our entire corridor. You know, she says we've been underinvested in comparison to other parts of our states and our country. So, you know, we just want to give a heads up to Francis and that work of Frost, Todd, and Brown to put us on our way.
All right. Thank you, David. Next is, we're going to turn it over to, and my colleague Pat Woodside is on with us as well. He's board member of the Ohio River Way, is also a member at Frost Brown Todd, or at Frost Brown Todd, and he's been helping us with funding, as well as funding ideas, as well as our resolutions that we are using for the communities. So I just want to acknowledge my colleague from Frost Brown Todd's on, Pat, Mr. Woodside. So David, we are going to turn it over to you with regards to the Ohio River Challenge. We've got a lot of content here. There's a lot going on, but there is a method to the madness. We are planning another paddle challenge down the river, and we are trying to use that as much as possible to continue to enhance our membership. So David, why don't you talk about the brass tacks? Do you want me to de-share screen so you can go to the website?
Yeah, why don't you de-share your screen? And I just wanted to give a shout out for several people who joined us. O'Shea, who is the president of the Brown Family Foundation with Christy Brown, and she has become a supporter of ours and is an avid paddler. And so just welcome O'Shea. Also Vic Elam with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as he's the guy over the islands in the Ohio River National Wildlife Refuge. And Vic, just to let you know, you missed a great tribute to you and the work that we're doing. So my job today is really to talk a little bit about the Ohio River Challenge that we're having coming up. And we've done this once before, but before we go into it, I just sort of want to give a call out to Adventure Crew. Miriam and has done our website, and it's been recently updated with the help of Mark Long and Francis. And so, you know, you can go through and look at all of the different, you know, the visions, the river, the towns, you know, we have details on each one of these. Under the Rivertown piece is a wonderful video that actually is a replica of our trip 3 years ago. So to the whole membership piece, when you click on this, you know, it's still mind-boggling. You know, when you really look at all of the towns, you know, it just keeps on going down and down. You know, it's just an incredibly impressive list. You know, another piece we just want to highlight here is our webinars. We have another webinar coming up. All of the past ones are online, all the details. One coming up now is on Orsanko's Ohio River Sweep. And so we are actively promoting the river sweep and cleaning up the river. If you're not familiar with the river sweep process, certainly let us know. Then under our events page, you know, we have, you know, information about the summit. Certainly all of the events. Brewster and folks have listed, you know, over 150 festivals up and down the Ohio River.
Click on it, Kevin. Click on it. Click on the events calendar.
Okay. So here we just start going on down. And so we just look at, you know, and that's part of what we're trying to do, is to not only celebrate, you know, the work on the river, but the work in the river towns. And how can we get Louisville folks to come on up to Portsmouth, or come on over to, you know, Augusta or the New Richmond? And so that, you know, it just keeps on going down. It's really sharing all of your work. That's what we are. We're trying to really share that work. Let's see. Brewster, I made you co-host, so maybe you could let people in as I'm talking.
Fine.
But I'm here to talk a little bit about the Ohio River Challenge under events. And we go here. And so on May 10th, or no, May 31st, we launched these big Voyager canoes. And so we did it, as I said, several years ago. COVID put us in the stop. We paddled from Portsmouth on down to Louisville. Unfortunately, the Falls of the Ohio is our preventative piece, so we don't get to go to New Albany, but we go on down to Louisville, stopping in each town. So as we go here, we're hosted the first night. We leave Portsmouth with a big festival in the morning. Many kudos to Portsmouth for putting it on. And then we go to Vanceburg, and then on down to Maysville, Vanceburg, Maysville, Augusta, Thomas More, and we're camping at those spots. But each one of those towns in between, we're going to try and stop at as many of them as possible. This year is sort of a bit different. We're recruiting artists, photographers, writers. So now we have, I think, 13 artists, writers, photographers, and a bunch of adventure people. And so the Cincinnati experience is providing a scholarship for somebody, or a waiver fee for another artist from the Cincinnati area, or a reporter. And so I say all this because it's a promotional piece. Not only are we rolling out the brand officially, and we hope to have newspaper articles in every single town and TV, but we're collecting data for future articles and for future books. And many kudos to the Outdoor Writers of America. I just think it'd be fascinating to get, a New York Times person floating on down with us. I see Susan Griffin Ward there from the Kentucky Waterways Alliance. And if you're not familiar with KWA, they own the river. Matter of fact, I think Kentucky owns most of the river, but KWA is the advocacy organization. And she's an amazing photographer who we're just looking forward to spending time with Susan as we paddle on down. So I say all that to say that we have two sections of the trip. It goes really from Portsmouth on down to Cincinnati, and then from Cincinnati down to Louisville, camping at each place. People can, if they wish to, get their own Airbnb if you don't want to camp out. We leave early in the morning, pre-dawn, because if you know anything about the river, the winds are less in the morning. And that's our challenge on this trip, is headwinds. We tend to face headwinds all the time, but it's just the challenge. And so if you have the wherewithal to sponsor somebody, or a local artist, they have to be willing to sit on a hard bench, a wooden bench, for 7 hours. That's about the only requirement.
They can bring their own cushion.
They can bring their own cushion, but you also have to be halfway gregarious because we're going to be in one boat, or two boats, or three boats, depending on how many people come. So from Portsmouth to Louisville, we'll probably have two boats, but have four, so we can expand the number. And I say all that because you have to put up with people. We're all in the same boat, and we don't like to have fights. So, you got to be halfway gregarious and friendly and join this crew of kindred spirits. And it's just a fun adventure. There's swimming, there's on and on and on. And we don't spend the whole time in the boats. We'll stop for rest breaks and stop in the towns. And I want to turn it over to Brewster. Well, before we go, this is sort of the challenge overview right here. Here's the challenge frequently asked questions, and so you can click on that, and basically all the printed material is on there. And then you have a paddler application. And so it's basically an application that sort of comes through. It's basically all the safety information. You want to make sure you know what you're getting into. You also, there's a fee associated with it. We say $900 for the whole trip. $600 for part of it. And occasionally, depending on our space, we can have people come for a day or two. And so Brewster will talk about that a little bit more. The bottom line is it's a fundraiser for us. We want to engage the communities. And as we stop in each community, when we're camping there, we're going to have a big dinner, catered dinner. Like in Augusta, just to sort of call out Augusta again, we're staying at the Rosemary Clooney House and then having dinner at a wonderful restaurant overlooking the river called the Beehive Tavern. And it's just a neat place, and that's one of the challenges, is to figure out which restaurant, because there's so many different wonderful places to eat, but during those times, we'll gather with everybody else from the community. They have to pay for themselves, though, just to let you know. And so we hope the mayor and the county judges and all of the tourism and recreation advocates will join us as we come through the town. And so it's the dream to really celebrate and to have this official rollout. So Brewster's on the on-land side guy. He's not going to sit on a hard bench for that long, but.
So I'm basically the advanced guy. So I jump ahead of everybody and help make the local arrangements. And what we'd love to do when and Portsmouth is already working on this. Kim Bauer, thank you very much for working with Wendy and other people up there to help launch us at 9 o'clock on the 31st and maybe do official ribbon cutting and to take pictures with civic leadership. We get in the boat and we paddle all down to Vansburg, do the same there. Next we go to Maysville, spend the night in Maysville, and I'm sure with Lacey and others we'll have a cool community event that's press worthy as we spend the night there. And then we end up in Augusta, and from Augusta so Janet will do a wonderful job for us in Augusta. That's going to be great. And then we go to stop in New Richmond. Greg and Mary Allen, thank you very much. Bob Lees will be there having a good time with New Richmond. And we go across the river, spend the night at the Thomas More Ohio River Field Station, and end up in Cincinnati the next night. That is Saturday the 4th. And Sunday we get up early and we go to Rising Sun, stopping perhaps we'll see in Lawrenceburg and Aurora on the way. And then the next day, get up and go. And we end up in Vansburg and Vivi. And from Vivi, we go to Madison. And from Madison, thank you, Austin. It'd be great down there. Thanks for your help. And then we go from Madison to Westport and spend the night there. And we end up in Louisville on the 9th. So it's a long 9-day paddle, but it's really an adventure. I mean, you feel like you're Lewis and Clark going down, or you feel like you're the indigenous folks experiencing the river for the first time. It's cool, but it's also really a marketing opportunity because we'll be doing a lot of social media. We'll have a drone operator with us. The video and photography will be all putting in the can so we can use that for marketing. But we hope to do an event in every community and perhaps stopping in Ripley, for example, for a quick moment, like for an hour or so, and maybe down in Boone County. Christy Knoll will work with you on that. So bottom line is this is a 10-day road trip. And so join us. It's going to be fun.
I just wanted to re-emphasize what Brewster said about stopping on towns along the way. Make sure you get with Brewster because this whole deal, what's going on in Boone County is fascinating. You know, the Boone County, the big, oh no, I'll get it. Creek Landing, the Boone and Creek, no, Big Bone Landing. I'll get it, right, Christy? It's just a fascinating place to feature, and not only the paddlers are fascinated, but how can we bring attention to your work? So make sure you get in touch with Brewster if there's something super special that we want to highlight.
And as David mentioned, you could join us for a day, and keep in mind that the $100 covers obviously the cost of dealing with these boats. We have a driver who's moving the boats and all your gear. We have insurance. We have food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is always a catered meal at a restaurant or being catered by an organization for us when we arrive at the campsite. Includes your camping fee. So, I mean, there are serious expenses that we incur. But if you wanted to join us for a full day or 2 days, that's always possible at $100 a day as well. So thank you very much. I think that's all we have time for.
Well, here, one more pitch for this, Brewster. We're also looking for sponsors. So, as we said, this is a fundraiser that if you know of a brewery, we're talking with West 6th right now. If there's other locations up and down that would like to sponsor the piece, because every penny we save on the on this process goes back into our general fund for the Ohio Riverway, because sometimes those general expenses are the hardest things to get. People can fund individual projects, but that's our idea, is to give us a sustainable funding stream so we can keep people like Francis and other folks working around the clock on this project.
Mr. Mallory, do you want to weigh in? Yeah.
You're on mute, Jim. Jim, you're on mute.
Hey,
while we're waiting for, oh, there we are.
Just a brief heads up to each of you. As you may or may not know, the Lewis and Clark Trust is a friends group of the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. 5 weeks ago, I got a call from our friends in Omaha asking if we could figure out a way, we meaning the trust, could figure out a way to provide funding for a pilot program to film the Ohio River from the water to the bank. We have, in 5 weeks, we have scrambled. We found funding starting on or about the 18th of June. Terrain 360, a Richmond, Virginia company, will film the Ohio River from Maysville to West Point, Kentucky. They will film each of the streams that drain into the Ohio. They'll film boat ramps. They'll provide the GPS locations on each of those. The communities along the river, along the Ohio, on the Kentucky side of it. And I apologize to my friends in Ohio and Indiana. This was Kentucky money we scrambled to come up with in a hurry. It's sometimes in my world, it's not important to have money. It's important to know where to get money quickly and to make things happen. There will be a couple of entries across the river, but it's just to tell the story. This is a pilot program. We will use this in future years to actually secure federal funding to film the entire Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail from the water. There are millions of pictures from the bank into the water. There are darn few from the water into the land. In addition to the filming from the water, when the Terrain 360 crew gets to individual communities, they will take their equipment and get out and walk the main street with permission of the local tourism and mayor and county judge executive and film the historic sections of those communities. This film will belongs as public domain. It belongs to those communities. It belongs to Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. It will become part of lewisandclark.travel. We want it used for promotion of tourism and preservation. We like to talk about preservation through education, and tourism is part of education. If I can provide additional information to any of you, you have my contacts on the screen. So please give me a shout out. And we're out here to promote tourism, promote education and tourism. Thanks a million. Appreciate your time this morning.
Jim, that's so exciting. You know, if you haven't seen Terrain 360, the National Park Service has worked with them across the United States, and it's just wonderful that they're coming to the Ohio River Valley. And many, many thanks, Jim, for your work. I did put a link into the chat for the 360, and you could do Terrain 360, and you could check out what they've done. It's just the entire Chesapeake Bay, you know, the Missouri River with the Lewis and Clark folks. And so it just, you know, this is more than a pilot. You know, if you can go from Maysville all the way down to West Point, that's just the beginning, you know, and so that's just so exciting, Jim.
Thank you, David. Listen, we're really using this area as to sell the big dollars. The big dollars, like Francis has been talking about today. This is a multi-million-dollar project and a multi-year project from Pittsburgh right now to the West Coast, to the mouth of Columbia River. So this is something we're trying to do to help you with. It was a scramble to come up with just short of $50,000. And Francis, I wish I could talk about numbers like you talk about, but the check has been written, literally. This is not smoke and hope. This is happening.
Maybe there's a way of using that whole piece with the Army Corps, because they're equally as interested, you know, and get the Army Corps in Huntington District and Louisville District to support stuff like this. We have an opportunity for a couple other people to weigh in. I just want to call on my friend Susan Griffin Ward. We just put together a wonderful Earth Day event on the Ohio River with Congressman Yarmouth and our Mayor Fisher and the Rotary Club president, Gene West, who, you know, fascinatingly, they have taken on
David is freezing there. We are at the top of the hour. David, hang on a second. We are at the top of the
Okay.
hour. So why don't we do close for this? And if people want to stick around for what I call water cooler talk, we could do that. But I want to make sure that we get just takeaways. If you can be a member, a representative for your individual community, we would like to know who you are so that we can count on you for connectivity in the future. Like when we hope to run this mayor's event in the future once a year. And in the future, when we're trying to find who it is, who's in charge in whatever community, we would use you to do that. We would like for you to send us your projects. Mr. Mallory can send me his project that includes the expansion of what he's working on. Register for the mayor's event. Register for the paddle if you want to participate in it, but there are so many different ways in which you could participate. You could be a paddler. You could do it for one day. You could do it the entire day. You could be on land. That is essentially our coalition meeting for this next month is going to be the paddle. And so that's going to be the way in which we connect in the next 60 days. So engage on that. Brewster, David, any more comments before we go into water cooler?
No, but the bottom line is this organization with all of your hard work and your communities is taking off like a rocket. And so strap your seatbelts on over the next few months because we're coming out of the chute here with the paddle, with the mayor's conference, the mayor's event, with our effort by November to apply for and hopefully get national recognition as a national water trail or recreation trail. Andrea Ireland will help us with that, but that'll be huge national visibility for us through the Department of Interior and the National Park Service. So every we keep moving forward with big, bold, audacious goals that'll help all of us and you, especially in your communities, thrive. Thank you.
So thanks, everybody. If you would like to stick around, please do so. We usually are on for a few more minutes, but I want to be cognizant for those of you to get on to the next thing today. Thank you for your time this morning. And stay tuned for more information coming. Our coalition meetings are now posted on the website. So if you are confused in the future about when and where and how to find us, you can find it now online with the link to get to the meeting. So if you're running late, you can find us via the website. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wicks would like to talk about his birthday celebration, and I'm going to go get some more coffee.
Well, I just wanted to thank Susan and her whole organization to help pull it off. And if you're not familiar with the Kentucky Waterways Alliance, as I said, work with communities up and down and all the tributaries. And we had a wonderful piece, very supportive of our congressman and mayor and local council people, and 14 organizations came together from Southern Indiana and Kentucky. And so, Susan, I just wanted to see if you had any observations about the river itself from the Kentucky Waterways, perspective.
Well, we are just thrilled about all the work that's happened on the Ohio River Way, and appreciate the great community building that's happened as part of it. I'm participating both because I have personal interest, and Kentucky Waterways Alliance is very committed to the Ohio River. And one of our hopes over the next few years, and we've gotten a good start on it, is we are partnering with the Rotary Clubs of Kentucky to involve those folks in the health of Kentucky's waterways. And a big part of that is the Ohio River. There was an event last fall where we worked with a steamboat company that took a boat down the river from Louisville, and we had Rotary clubs that were at each port and did a project. And I don't think that event is going to happen again this fall, but maybe the following year. But in the meantime, we will be working with Rotary clubs up and down the river. And one of the reasons I want to do this Ohio River Challenge is to have a better sense of who our partners are and get to know people. And so it's just a great fit all around, and I can't wait. So
If I can say, Susan, I think what you and David have brought to my attention is the interest nationally and internationally of Rotary around this whole question. So every community along the Ohio that we're engaged with has a Rotary.
Mhm.
And so with your leadership, hopefully you can help everybody connect to their local Rotary. And boy, what a great way to get deeply into the community.
Yeah, this week, and I apologize, I'm probably a little behind on this, but I'm gonna reach out to the Rotary clubs at each of our stops and let them know we're gonna be there and invite them to come out and say hello. And so that'll be a start. So.
No, it'd be fascinating. I'm not sure if you've met Mary Allen, Susan, but Mary Allen is from New Richmond, and you probably have a Rotary there, Mary, don't you?
We do not
Oh.
specifically have a Rotary, but I would be happy to meet with her sometime just to get better acquainted.
I'd love that. Thanks.
And Mary is a member of the City Council in New Richmond and is on our overall Ohio Riverway Board. So thank you, Mary. Great.
Any other thoughts for the good of the order?
Mr. Miller, if you're still on, I'm talking 10:30. We're finishing up some of the FLAP app stuff. And I will just say that when we start talking about funding sources, that the funding sources, there is not, and I think that we need to change the message for them. I was hoping that some of this messaging around the funding stuff could be useful on May 12th. I think we need to add some more context with that as to why are we using earmarks versus other sources of funds for the things that we're going after. And sometimes it looks a little disjointed when you're using one federal lands access program versus what you would imagine is just straight funding. So I'm trying to figure what is available with what we've got. And so that's kind of, but I think there's a story with regards to what we're using, going after earmarks versus other sources of funds, because there is not one dedicated source that could help us with, other than RTP and land water conservation funds, because of the way in which we divide things up in the United States. Yeah. Anyway, we have a FLAP meeting. If those of you who can participate in the FLAP meeting, Gina, I just got your text message. Gina, I got your message.
And I'd just like to thank you, Rick Jansen, for joining us and for bringing Ironton to the table, even though you're in Lawrence County and a little upstream from Portsmouth. We just love to have you guys engage with us. So thank you very much.
Oh, one last question. I see Risa Shimoda is still online. And Risa, I'm not sure if you're available for comment, but Brewster is our on-land person. And our dream is to really support that whole celebration of the Ohio River and how we can tie into the River's celebration. You know, we've already listed our events. And is there anything you have to share with Brewster or with the committee here about the June celebration? Even though Francis has to leave in 10 minutes, so we're short.
Sure, I'll take two. Thanks, David, and thanks, Brewster. You guys are crushing it, and it's amazing what you're doing on the Ohio River. I'm in Maryland, but my roots to the Ohio River is I learned how to row my kayak in a pool in Hamilton County, so I'm sort of connected. But the River Management Society where I work is partnered with ORBA and is a volunteer with the organization to create awareness about the whole basin. So the basin goes from St. Bonaventure campus down to northern Georgia, over to northeast Alabama, and over to Cairo, Illinois. So the effort is to raise awareness among all those corners of the basin. And it's 55,000 river miles, and to put them all on a map. And our initiative includes just raising your hand, and your events are on the calendar, raising your hand saying we're part of the Ohio River Basin. And we're sending out maps of specific events, congressional districts, so that you know specifically which streams are in your in your district, and to acknowledge the collaborative effort, and to encourage people to literally just raise awareness that if you're in Alabama, you might be on the Tennessee River or on the French Broad River in North Carolina, you're part of the Ohio River Basin. So thanks for the time, and hope to see more groups on the map, and good luck with all of your events coming up.
Well, it's a pleasure working with you, Risa, and the River Management Society, and because the health of the basin is crucial at our little stretch of the Ohio River. You know, the two are connected tremendously. Well, thank you very much for everybody. I'm gonna close it out.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.